Some people think they're in control until the wrong word, the wrong tone, or the wrong moment takes the wheel. And suddenly, they're not responding, they're reacting. A rush of anger, a wave of anxiety, a flood of sadness. And just like that, they're no longer living their life. Their emotions are living it for them. But the Stoic sees things differently. He understands that emotions are natural, but not sovereign. They are guests, not kings. To feel something is not the same as being ruled by it. You can feel anger without lashing out. You can feel fear without fleeing. You can feel sadness without collapsing. That is the heart of Stoicism, not suppression but strength. Not emotional numbness, but emotional clarity. There's a space between stimulus and response. A sacred pause. A breath that changes everything. Because when emotion runs your life, you're not living, you're surviving. But when you train your reason, when you root yourself in principle, you become steady.
Calm.
Immovable. Like a tree in the storm, bent maybe, but never broken. So if you're tired of being pushed around by your own feelings, if you're ready to become the master of your mind instead of its hostage, this episode is for you. Let's begin. 1. Emotions are signals, not commands. What if I told you that most of your suffering doesn't come from what you feel, but from what you do with what you feel? That emotion in itself isn't the enemy, but how we respond to it often is. Every day, emotions pass through you. Anger, fear, joy, envy, frustration. These are not flaws. They're ancient biological signals designed to alert, inform, and guide you. But most people mistake a signal for a command. They feel anger, so they must yell. They feel fear, so they must avoid. They feel shame, so they must hide. But the Stoic steps in and says, no, he says, feel deeply, respond wisely. Because emotions are like weather. You don't control when it rains, but you do control whether you panic or pause and take shelter. Just because the sky darkens doesn't mean you throw away your plans. Just because anger rises doesn't mean you must strike. The disciplined mind understands. It's not about what you feel, but what you do next. The Stoic doesn't shut off emotion. He learns from it. Fear shows up. He asks, why? Sadness lingers. He sits with it. Anger erupts. He steps back and breathes. Emotion is the dashboard light, not the steering wheel. And when you understand that, you begin to reclaim your power. 2. Use reason as your compass. When the sea gets rough, the sailor doesn't throw away his compass.
He leans on it.
That's what reason is for the Stoic, not just a tool, but a compass, a guide when emotion churns the waters. In a world that glorifies outrage, using reason seems radical. But it's reason, not rage, not panic, that brings clarity. Reason lets you see reality as it is, not as your fear distorts it. Think back to your last emotional decision, driven by impulse, by jealousy, by insecurity. Did it help? Or did it leave damage you later had to repair? Emotions are fast, reason is accurate. The Stoic trains his mind to pause, to reflect, to question before responding. He doesn't ignore emotion, he filters it. Someone insults him? He doesn't retaliate, he investigates. Is this about me or their pain? Epictetus said, it's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them. If pain is caused by perception, then peace is found in perspective. Reason gives you that power, the power to see beyond the moment, beyond the emotion, and into truth. When you're anchored in reason, you don't need the world to calm down. You've already calmed yourself. 3. Observe without obeying. There's a powerful moment, rarely seen, often missed, that separates a life of reaction from a life of mastery. It's the moment when you notice an emotion without becoming it. You feel anger, but don't shout. You feel anxiety, but don't run. You feel sadness, but you don't crumble. That's observation, not suppression, not denial, just presence. The Stoics knew that we can't always control what we feel, but we are never required to obey it. You are not your feelings. You are the one who sees them. And in that seeing, you create distance. Distance creates power. Like a fire alarm, it's loud, but it doesn't always mean danger. You pause. You investigate. You ask, Is this real? Is it helpful? Observation isn't glamorous. It's quiet, but it's the foundation of self-control. When you observe, you stop being a puppet pulled by every emotional string. You reclaim your agency. You don't silence your emotions, you study them. And slowly, you train your nervous system to breathe instead of collapse. To stay still in the storm. That stillness? That's not emptiness. That's freedom. 4. Mastering emotion is mastering the self. To master your emotions is not to erase them. It's to rise above their control. It's to become the sculptor, not just the stone. The author, not just the character. That's the Stoic goal, self-mastery. Not self-denial, not perfection, but sovereignty. When anger can decide your tone, when anxiety can dictate your choices, when pride can sabotage your values, you're not free. You're ruled. But mastery is different. It says, I can feel this and still choose who I become. The Stoics use the image of a chariot. Emotions are the horses. Your mind is the reins. If untrained, they drag you into chaos. But when trained, they carry you with power and grace. This is not numbness, it's leadership. Over your own soul. And it's earned, not given. It's built in moments, when you breathe instead of burst. When you reflect instead of react. When you return to your principles, instead of abandoning them for comfort. Because most people are chasing control over others over life. The Stoic? He chases control over himself. And that is the highest freedom there is. 5. Stillness is a choice. In a noisy world, stillness is a rebellion. But for the Stoic, stillness is not a luxury. It's a discipline. It's not the absence of movement, but the presence of control. The ability to pause, to observe, to breathe while the world shouts. Stillness isn't passivity, it's power. When someone insults you, stillness lets you hear the words without letting them pierce your identity. When life disappoints you, stillness lets you mourn without unraveling. Most people react to escape discomfort. They talk to fill silence, scroll to numb pain, lash out to feel powerful. But the Stoic? He waits. He listens. He sits in silence until truth rises. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and still found time to write. Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it. Stillness isn't what happens when life gives you peace. It's what you choose when life gives you chaos. It's the strength to not need the last word, to not respond to every message, to not defend every misunderstanding. That's the power of stillness. It holds you when emotion would tear you apart. And in that stillness, you find something more valuable than certainty. You find clarity. 6. Reframe before reacting. Every moment gives you two options, to react blindly or to respond wisely. The Stoic chooses to reframe, to see differently before acting destructively. Because it's not the event that causes suffering, it's your interpretation. You get rejected. Is it failure or a redirection? You're criticized. Is it an attack or a mirror? You're delayed. Is it a punishment or an opportunity to slow down? Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That power is reframing. Not pretending things are good, but choosing to see them with wisdom instead of woundedness. It doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means questioning whether your first reaction deserves to be your final response. The Stoic sees that most regret doesn't come from what we feel, but from how fast we acted on it. So he pauses, breathes, reframes. He takes the lens of emotion and cleans it with reason. And in doing so, he reclaims his power, not just over the situation, but over himself. That's the freedom Stoicism offers, not freedom from pain, but freedom from being defined by it. 7. Train your inner calm. Calm is not inherited, it's trained. It's not found, it's forged. The Stoic doesn't wait for life to be easy. He trains in the silence for the storm. He watches what triggers him, disrespect, discomfort, rejection, and he practices being unmoved. Not because he doesn't feel it, but because he doesn't feed it. Calm is not pretending. It's processing without collapsing. It's pausing long enough to stay in command. The world will poke your wounds. Life will test your patience. People will misunderstand you. And that's when the training counts. Calm isn't loud. It's quiet power. The power to choose presence over panic. Restraint over reaction. Reflection over rage. You train it in small moments. The urge to snap, you breathe. The desire to retaliate, you wait. The impulse to escape, you stay. And slowly, you build a nervous system that doesn't shatter when life shakes. Calm isn't a weakness. It's a weapon. Seneca wrote, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than necessary." But when you train calm, you stop suffering twice. You become the one who changes the temperature of the room. Not because you raise your voice, but because you've lowered your need to be ruled by your feelings. You become unshaken. Not by nature, but by choice. 8. Let the mind lead the heart. Follow your heart sounds romantic, but the Stoic knows. The heart is impulsive. It's passionate, but not always wise. The heart feels deeply, but the mind must steer, not to silence feeling, but to guide it. Feelings arise from hunger, exhaustion, fear, hormones, old wounds, not always truth. One moment you love, the next you question. 1 hour you're confident, the next you're crumbling. If you let the heart lead without the mind, you'll be dragged into chaos. But when your mind leads, your heart feels safe.
Heard. Seen.
But not obeyed blindly. Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them." The Stoic pauses and asks, is this wise? Is this worthy? Is this lasting? Because we've all seen what happens when emotion leads. Relationships burned in rage, money wasted in euphoria, words regretted in anger. But when the mind leads the heart, you act with intention, not just intensity. Your choices align with your highest self. The heart doesn't need to be silenced. It needs to be shepherded. And when you train that balance, passion under principle, you don't become cold, you become clear. You lead yourself not just where it feels good, but where it's good for your future self to go. 9. Emotions pass, principles remain. In the heat of the moment, anger feels like justice. Fear feels like truth. Sadness feels like the end. But all emotion, no matter how intense, is temporary. It rises. It peaks. It fades. But what lasts is what you did in that moment.
The words you said.
The actions you took. The integrity you either protected or betrayed. The Stoic knows, emotions are waves. But your principles, your values, are the shore. They don't move. And that's why they matter. Because most people sacrifice the permanent for the temporary. They abandon their values just to relieve a moment. One outburst ruins a decade of respect. One night of weakness derails years of growth. But the Stoic sees it coming. He says, I feel this, but I am not this. I choose who I become next. Marcus Aurelius compared principles to stars. They don't disappear when it's cloudy. They're still there, guiding you. So, what are your stars? What do you refuse to betray? Is it patience? Discipline? Kindness? Once you know, you hold the line. No matter how loud the feeling. And slowly, something beautiful happens. Your emotions begin to respect your principles. They flare, but they don't control you. Because you're not the wave anymore. You're the shore. And that is what makes you unbreakable. The storms of life will never stop. People will provoke you. Plans will fall apart. Your own mind will rebel against you. But the Stoic doesn't seek a life without hardship. He seeks the strength to remain unmoved within it. Because real power isn't loud. It's not in the shout, the punch, or the last word. Real power is restraint. It's choosing clarity when chaos begs for reaction. It's holding the line when every emotion tries to break it. It's remembering. You are not what happens to you.
You are how you respond.
So let others be ruled by their moods. Tossed around by every feeling. You train for calm. You choose principle over impulse. Discipline over drama. And stillness over noise. That's not weakness. That's command. And if you're ready to reclaim your inner stillness, subscribe for more Stoic reflections like this. Until next time, stay grounded, stay clear, and above all, stay in command of your life.